Good morning, everybody. Well, I just don't know what to say. There's obviously a purpose and a reason for this, because as I tell you, nothing ever happens by accident. So, the one who believes she's up there with Jesus just left us a gold mine, and I don't know why she did it. It most likely is her ego, but we are going to explore this today, and I promise you that if you will understand what I'm about to teach you, you will never be taken in by a fake guru, a charlatan, a con woman or man ever again. This I guarantee you. So as a teacher, as an acharya, I have to go where I believe you're going to learn the most. And she has left us a gold mine. And I mean that with all sincerity. So let's get started. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. From ignorance lead me to truth. From darkness lead me to light. From death lead me to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay. So, as I knew what was going to happen, she watched the teaching I did last night and came back with a counter this morning. Understand, the behaviors that I spoke about previously, you're seeing them all play out right now. She had not spoken about spiritual teachings in God knows how long. Only when I was hitting her hard towards the end that people were asking her questions. When I was telling people, go ask her this, go ask her that, that's when she started doing it. But she literally had come out and said she doesn't want to do that anymore. Go on her other page if you want to know this stuff. And now all of a sudden on her tarot page, here she is talking about scriptural thing, and she's back to being guru status. Okay? She left us a gold mine this morning. So the first thing I did was I went to go and see if I can find the scripture in the Hinduism, because honestly, I heard this first many years ago when I started following my first guru. And as usual with me, I don't remember where in the scripture it is. So I tried to see if I can Google it. That the words that were said were Mahadeva. Mahadeva put himself into many so that he can worship himself. And I couldn't find it even on Google. It brought me to all kinds of Vedic understandings and information on Hinduism and all this other stuff, which actually... What I did, I found a beautiful page on Hinduism that has all the various different kinds of scriptures in there that I actually saved, and I'm going to go do some reading. But what was interesting to me, the majority of things that popped up were Christian, talking about that the I Am was here before Abraham. Many, many Christian teachings. So what stood out to me from this is exactly what I said, and we're going to keep it on the same subject matter, which is concepts. This is in fact what the one who thinks she's up there with Jesus, her whole video today was filled with nothing but concepts, and this is why it was a pot of gold. And you will be able to see in a heartbeat what a fake she is. So what it showed me when I found all this on Google was that it reinforced what I told you all last night, that religion is man-made and Maya to keep you bound to ignorance. And it's evident to me more than ever, because here it is. I went to go look up a Hindu verse that I had heard from the Hindu religion, and it brought up all Christian teachings. The teachings are identical because, as I said over and over again, there is only one truth. There is only one truth. The teachings, regardless of what religion you follow, the teachings are identical. It is the religion that has you living in ego to believe that you're separate from God, number one, that you're separate from God. So you're weak, you have no power. The people who are held in higher positions, your priests, your gurus, your pastors, your rabbis, and iman, I think they're called in Muslims. Muslims. Imams, I think that's what they're called. That they have the utmost respect from the sleepers in society. It's all about hierarchy to keep you down in ignorance. And you're never actually being liberated as long as you're following a religion. You're never actually liberated. So here it was. All the religions are, the scripture of each religion is teaching the same exact things. But it is in Maya, the leaders of these religions, that have put their own human spin, their own ignorant spin on everything to keep you in delusion. This is why one religion fights against another religion, saying, I'm better than you, when in fact, they haven't fully read the scripture, or they would know how idiotic that statement is. I innately understood this, and I don't understand how, but I innately understood this, which is why I kept yelling, stop bashing Christians. I understood to a certain level, still in Maya, but at a certain level, that people should be free to worship whatever religion they want. And there was an essence in me that understood that we're all one. It wasn't to the level that I understand it now, but there was that essence in me that I understood we're all one. This is where I was back then. This is where the one who believes she's up there with Jesus is now. And it is so evident in these videos she put out this morning. So let's keep it with concepts. So what did she talk about this morning? She talked about past lives. And this was done on purpose. I have to tell you that. It was done on purpose by her because I have spoken about this before. And I'm going to speak about it again. And now I'm going to put her down once and for all. And you will see without a doubt that she is nothing more than a Bible thumper. You know, it comes back down to when the Bible thumpers try to put down a person who has truly done the work. It's analogous to the old story of Moses going to the Pharaoh and saying, let my people go, and the plagues that were brought on because the Pharaoh refused to understand who he was dealing with. See, the same thing is happening now to the one who thinks she's up there with Jesus. And it is what it is. That's all I can say. But in the meantime, it is an absolutely immense, enormous, humongous teaching opportunity here and learning opportunity for you guys. She also made a statement in there that God is happy to do anything for you. God is not happy or sad. That is a religious concept. That is an ignorant concept. God is not happy or sad, and God is actually not doing anything for you. You are God. And everything that's happening is spontaneous. Even the fact of you entering this form is spontaneous. So you understand, I'm going to go through this step by step, very slowly, to help you understand why her claim of a past life is bogus. And she is an insane lunatic who is trying to keep everyone in delusion. She is insane. Once you understand this concept, you will never be taken in by a tarot reader. You will never be taken in by a medium, a mystic, a psychic, anything like this ever again. In fact, the Bible warns that you should stay away from these people. And I will explain why. Well, let me explain why right now. You see, these people and everyone in the sleep believes that when we die, because they still see themselves and the people they love as the body and the mind. So they see that this is the person. So they think that when a person dies, they go to heaven or wherever their religion says. And that when they go to see a medium, that a medium has a connection to the other side and it's their family member that they're talking to. When in fact, all it is an interdimensional being who is of the earth realm, which means they are of the lower realms. The Akashic records are a real thing. A real thing. Every thought that we have in the form is recorded. This is why thoughts are powerful. Thoughts are things. They are powerful. And everything is energy. Everything is vibrations. Your thoughts have a consequence. Whether you say it or not doesn't matter. Your thoughts have a consequence. This is why it's so beautiful when the mind stills. That's one less thing to worry about. Your thoughts are things. The Akashic records are real. What these interdimensional beings do is they will look at the Akashic records of the person asking the question and get the information that they're seeking. And they will feed it to the medium. You have to understand every single thing that we know in this life is all a concept and it's all in delusion. God has no care or concern whether you're into tarot cards, you're into Ouija boards, you're into psychic abilities, you're into mediumship. God does not care one way or the other. This is all human stuff. These are all the games that humans play. And God has nothing to do with it. So what these people are doing is actually calling on interdimensional beings of the earth realm, which are of the lower realm. When you're talking about doing gypsy parlor tricks, and that is in fact what I call all this stuff, you will understand when you're actually awake that even yogis that have massive powers will one day stop doing these powers and seek to know the self. Mooji has said that many times in his satsangs, that he had yogis sitting right in front of him who have been practicing powers for many, many years, and now they're finally ready to know the self. And here they are sitting in front of Mooji. All of this stuff is a gypsy parlor trick, and you have to understand this. And when you're dealing with powers and you're dealing with any of this mystical stuff, which includes tarot cards, you're calling on the lower realm interdimensional beings. And this morning she says, I would like to thank my teacher's guides and whatever she said. She probably heard someone say that. Yeah, you're calling on these beings that are around us all the time. Has nothing to do with the source. And I have to make a clarification here. When I say it has nothing to do with the source, The source is everything and everyone. Even in these interdimensional beings that are of the lower realm, the source is flowing through them. But just like us in the personhood, we have this personhood, we have this delusion. The same thing is true of these lower dimensional beings. Although the source is flowing through them, they have these other characteristics about them. Okay? So when I say the source has nothing to do with it, I mean the pure awareness. The pure awareness. So in that video, she also talks about something about Morning Joe saying all Christians should come together, what she heard. And she got highly indignant about that. It should be every religion. Well, actually, it should be no religion. See, if she was actually a realized being, it would be no religion, because you would have to be transcended of religion. The other thing she says is this is why she opened up the online ashram, so that we can have a community together. Well, what she's doing is creating more attachments for people. She's creating more attachments. This is a solitary path, and your goal on the path, if you really want realization and liberation, you have to break every attachment. You have to break every concept. And what are you doing when you're going in these online ashrams and surrounding yourselves with fakes that believe they're up there with Jesus Christ and the people who follow them, because you have the blind leading the blind? And then you go into the online ashram, into the online community, the tribe, and what do you have? You have the comatose leading the comatose. This is a solitary path. And it doesn't mean that you are not supposed to speak with people or interact with people. You live your life the way you would normally live your life. But your spiritual practices are solitary. Not in any online ashram or community. Because all that is doing, to create a tribe, to create a community, you are creating more attachment. You are creating more delusion. And it is the blind leading the blind. It's another way you can see what she's doing. So God is not happy or sad about anything that happens to you. Everything is spontaneous. See the way I put out that video last night, and spontaneously she came back with this. Well, this is now spontaneously me responding to her. This is the spontaneity of the universe. This is the spontaneity of the universe, and the source could care less. As long as we learn our lessons and we wake up, the source says, have at it. He doesn't care. And he is, to make it easier, the source has no gender. To me, it seems, and it's also a concept. This is what I'm going to show you, how deep this goes, these concepts. I'm just going to say, to me, it seems disrespectful to say it about the source. The source doesn't care about it. It's language. It's a concept. None of this matters. This is all stuff in the personhood. Excuse me. This is all stuff in the personhood. The source don't care about any of this. But even for me, I was just going to say, well, I feel it's disrespectful for me to say it to the source. It is a word that is used in a derogatory nature when you're speaking about a person or a being. The source is none of those things. The source is pure awareness. So understand how deep these concepts go. You know, when I talk to you about religion, well, that is huge in and of itself. Everything that you consider to be right and wrong, your moral standards, your ethics, what is proper regarding sex, and it's all concepts. All of it is concepts. Every last thing that we know in the personhood that we have learned since we have entered this form is a concept. And now I'm going to get to the nitty gritty. And if you understand this, you will never be taken in by these fakes ever again. Now, I've said to you over and over again that the source put himself into many so that he can worship himself, because in the pure awareness, the source doesn't even know himself. And when we leave the form, we go back into pure awareness. So we don't know that any of this exists anymore. So it is impossible for a medium to be talking to any family member of ours that has left the form. It's impossible. It is an interdimensional being that resides in the lower realms that you're speaking to, or that is feeding the medium information, because they actually got it from the Akashic records of the person who's asking the question. That's how that's happening. So, if you understand this premise, that in the pure awareness, even the source does not know itself. That's why it comes into form, okay? And when it comes into form, it then becomes consciousness, which becomes the I am. If you understand this, you're at least 50% there. That's what I can tell you. Not just here. You got to really internalize this. You will never be taken in by another charlatan ever again. Now, if when we leave the form, we go back into the pure awareness, and even the source doesn't know itself in pure awareness, how can we ever believe that we can remember a past life? If our entering this form was a spontaneous act, how can we ever believe that we will be reincarnated? And here's what I want to tell you about this. Reincarnation is another concept that was developed in religion. The Christians say we die and we go to heaven. We're not born. We're not reincarnated. The Hindus say, and I don't know if there's other religions out there that say reincarnation is real. Hinduism, it says reincarnation is real. And here's what I want to clarify for you guys. Religion is in Maya. And what that means is people who follow religion believe that they are the body-mind. They believe that they are this. So when they think about reincarnation, they think about who they believe they are right now in the personhood. And then that personhood is going to come into a different form. That is not true. It's fallacy. And that depending on what good or bad you've done in this life will depend on, you might come back as an animal, you might come back as an insect, you might come back as a human. That these are all concepts developed in religion to keep you in line. No different than the Christians saying you will go to hell if you're bad. So, I'm going to read it now to you from Nisargadatta directly, because this is so important. And people's religions are so important. And I believe this is why the one who calls herself up there with Jesus put this out here today. Because she knew I was going to come back with this. And she wanted Hindus out there to get upset with me. Except that this is now going to backfire on her. Because I'm going to read it straight from Nisargadatta. That everything I've ever said was gospel truth. So, if we come into the form spontaneously, understand we are not individuals coming into a form. You've got to break away from the whole body-mind thing. Understand and keep remembering my little vision of the bodies on the clothesline and the source just swooping in. And the source could swoop into billions of bodies in one time. Or get the picture in your mind of the ocean with the waves popping up. You're still the source. The source is just looking up, taking a peek. It's actually the same exact thing as my vision of the source going into the limp bodies, and then once the source enters, the bodies come to life. It's the same exact premise. Okay? If it helps you more, think of the ocean with the many, many waves that pop up in the ocean. And then what happens? The waves come back into the ocean because it is all the water. See, it is all the water. There's nothing separate from anything. And this is exactly what is going on here. So what happens? These bodies, you've heard me say this over and over again. These bodies are in fact Mother Earth standing up. They are the 5 elements. What are the 5 elements? They're also the source. Everything is the source. But they are the 5 elements, right? So they're more in a more condensed form, and we get these bodies. So what happens? We get a male body and we get a female body that has intercourse. And what happens? So it's 5 elements and 5 elements having intercourse. And what happens? Another body of the 5 elements is born. So what happens? Source swoops in. There is no rhyme or reason to say that when the source swoops in that body body was here before, or that consciousness was here, because the only thing you know of consciousness is in personhood. It's in personhood. So everything that you think you remember, your family, your friends, your job, your this, your that, that's all in personhood. It's all a part of the illusion. So today she went and told her ridiculous story of she literally went crazy in her past life. I can only sit here and laugh anymore. I can only sit here and laugh. Listen, the mind will hallucinate on many, many things. Did she actually have something that occurred to her? She could have. I can't say that she didn't. She could have. Had nothing to do with a past life. It was a hallucination of the mind. Because once we go back to the pure awareness, there is no any of this anymore. None of it. There is the nothingness, and that's all there is the nothingness. So every memory that we have in this life has been created by the consciousness that is in this form currently. Once the consciousness leaves this form, all of this, anything that happened in this life is gone. Will the same spark of consciousness that's in this form inhabit another form? Who's to say? I don't know. The fact of the matter is that you've heard over and over again that when you're thinking in the past, you're in personhood. When you're thinking in the future, you're in personhood. The only thing we ever have is right now. The same is true. When you're thinking about a past life, you're in personhood. When you're thinking about a reincarnation, you're in personhood. These are all concepts that have been brought to you through Maya, through religion, through cultural understandings. If you understand that this breath I just took in, it was the source. This hair is the source. This computer, what's made of this computer is the source. The space that I can't see that's all around me is the source. Everything that's inside of me is the source. There is nothing that is not the source. Do you understand? Go back to the picture that I showed you a few months ago. That when energy is condensed, when you have a vast space of energy, and you condense that into a very small space, it changes what is seen. That is what happens when the pure awareness enters the form and becomes consciousness. It changes what is seen. This is why when consciousness leaves the form, it goes back into the pure awareness, and there is absolute nothing, nothingness. In that nothingness, there is no pain, no sorrow, no happiness, no bliss. There is nothingness, but there is pure contentment. There is... If you've ever gone into samadhi, you understand what I'm saying. This is why there are no words to explain it. You want for nothing. You crave nothing. You desire nothing. You miss nothing. You remember nothing. There are no words. There just are no words. You have to experience it. So all these concepts of past lives, reincarnation, they are in fact as I've been telling you. Now, do people have memories of past lives? They sure do. They're hallucinations. They're hallucinations. I want you to remember the story that Sadhguru told about Ramakrishna and Kali. How Ramakrishna would sit down with Kali, and Kali was real. He would speak to her. He would see her in form. He would go through ecstasy. He would bring food for her, and the food would be gone. This is, in fact, what one of my former guru talked about. I believe it was the fourth dimension in the Akash, where he was saying to feed Ganesh some food, and Ganesh would take the food. Well, this is exactly what happened to Ramakrishna with Kali. He would actually bring food to Kali, and the food would disappear. What had to happen? That was still an imagination, a hallucination of Ramakrishna's mind. And it was when he got that sword, when he was able to get that sword after... what was his name? Tutapuri, when he cut his forehead with the glass, he snapped him out of it, and Ramakrishna was able, with his mind, to see the sword and cut Kali. That was how he was free of the hallucination. So you understand, this is how real these hallucinations can be. And this is why I said, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at, because I have this being here that has inhabited the form. It is very real to me. My form has been deformed. I'm understanding this is all a hallucination. Although it appears very real to me, it is all a hallucination. And I have to break this hallucination in order to become fully realized and a Paramahamsa. I have to break this. And my concern was that I don't have a guru here to cut me across the forehead. So I'm going to have to rely on the source to do this. This is what I was talking about. The mind is very powerful. When you understand that you are not this form, that you are consciousness, every single thing that happens to you here is a hallucination. It is a hologram. You have to understand that. It is a hologram. After Ramakrishna cut Kali up with that knife, or the sword that he thought of in his mind, he didn't have a real sword. He got the sword up in his mind and he cut Kali up. Kali never visited him again. Even though he would bring food to her and the food would literally disappear. He was in the Akash. The food would literally disappear. He would literally be going through ecstasy. But once he cut her with that sword, she never returned. Do you understand? It was all a hallucination. Because we are not the form. And when you can fully understand this and internalize this, you will be able to spot these fakes out here in a heartbeat. So this one that calls herself up there with Jesus Christ is an absolute fake who's peddling concepts to everybody. And now I'm going to read from Nisargadatta Maharaj. The The book is Prior to Consciousness. And I'm going to start on, it says April 8th, 1980. Actually, it's page 2, right at the beginning. April 8th, 1980. Questioner, is the world as we see it a thought? It is written in some places that when one sees the world, one does not see the self. And conversely, when one sees the self, one does not see manifestation. Maharaj, the world is nothing but the picture of your own eye. Consciousness. If you had received a phone call telling you that you are, and immediately the world appears. When you are in deep sleep and you feel that you are awake, the dream world appears simultaneously. With the I am, the world appears in the waking and dream states. And understand, it's exactly what I said last night. When we enter the form as consciousness, the world appears simultaneously. Because in the pure awareness, we are in the nothingness. All of this disappears. So when we enter the form as consciousness, the world appears because we are able to experience it now. Questioner, can one see the world without the presence of the ego? Maharaj, when is there an ego? Think about this very carefully. When is there an ego? The ego is there when you have certain reactions. You take delivery of whatever is observed spontaneously. You cling to it, register it. Then only is there an ego. When you believe that you are this body-mind, that you are a person and you are separate from other people, then only is there an ego, and it is all illusion. You see some building material lying on the road. You think that you are a carpenter and you start figuring out how to use the material. The thought process has started. Ego starts. Psychological mind. The ego and psychological mind are one and the same. If you are nobody, you will not bother about the building material. You will just observe it and go your way. Once it is out of sight, it is out of mind. But when you receive that delivery, you cogitate over it. Ego has started. Questioner, so when it comes to the utility of what is seen, then when the ego comes into being? So when it comes to the utility of what is seen, that's when the ego comes into being? Maharaj, yes. That is its nature. Questioner, to get back to my other question, when the world is seen, the self is not. When the self is seen, the world is not. Is that so? Maharaj, it is the other way. So these phonies out here, like the one who thinks she's up there with Jesus, will tell you that when you realize you don't have to be bothered with the things out in the world. She said this morning that there will be no more fear about the world. You can just go and enjoy the world. You'll have to listen to it. I don't want to add to the problem by putting words in her mouth. God forbid. Maharaj, it is the other way. When you know that you are, the world is. As I said, when you enter the form, you are now able to experience the world and see the world. If you are not, your world is not. When you leave the form, you go back to pure awareness, all this is gone. You go into the nothingness. Questioner, is I the self? I am talking about the difference between the I am and the thought, I am a man, which is the ego. In the I am consciousness, does the world exist? Can you see it? Maharaj, when you wake up, you have only the sense of being without words. This is the primary principle, the prerequisite. Later on, you know fully that you are, and the world is. but that is an illusion. Like the horns of a hare. The world is like the dream world, finally. Understand this point very thoroughly. You are dealing too much with the ego. Have you understood what was said about the ego? Questioner, I think I have. If I ask another question, maybe I can resolve it. Using the analogy of the snake and the rope, seeing a rope in a dimly lit place and mistaking it for a snake. If we use the world in that analogy, where is the mistaken identity there? Maharaj, the self is the world. You are talking about removing the identity between the self and the world, aren't you? First of all, dispose of the self. Understand what the self is. Get to know the self first. Then get to know what the world is. The reason the world appeared is that you came to know that you are, which is exactly what I have said 4 or 5 times now. The reason the world appeared was because we entered the form as consciousness. And we understood that we exist. We can see, we can experience. Because in the pure awareness, the source does not even know itself. When we leave this form, all of this disappears. Questioner, how can one in the waking state lose the sensation of the world altogether and just be the self? Maharaj, you will have to consult the sun. Ask him, how do you get rid of your light? Light is the manifestation of the sun. Can you separate the light from the sun or the sun from the light? Because of the sun, the light is. Because you are, your world is. Because the witnessing state happens, hence you are. Because you are, witnessing is palpably felt. And understand, because you are, because you entered this form as consciousness, you witness everything. What is looking out of these eyes is the consciousness. You have always been here. That's all you are, is the self. Not what that one who believes she's up there with Jesus is telling you. You have always been the self. It is the personhood that is the illusion. Because you are, your world is. Because the witnessing state happens, hence you are. Because you are, witnessing is palpably felt. Because the sun is, light is. If there is no witnessing, there is no witness. Dwell there. If there is no witnessing, there is no witness. When you are in the absolute, there is nothing. There is the nothingness. You must be in form in order to witness. And hence, when you witness, the world appears. When you are able to witness, the world appears. Questioner, the being is the witness? Maharaj, there are 2 witness stages. And the fake one who calls herself up there with Jesus tried to tell you all to just witness the mind, witness the mind. Well, the other day she said, ignore the mind. Remember, that's when I put out that Ramana Maharishi told you to witness the mind, to observe the mind. She told you just forget about the mind. Well, now she's telling you to witness the mind in the video she put out today. I'm glad that she has become my follower. So there are 2 witnessing stages. Beingness witnesses all this manifestation. Witnessing of this beingness, consciousness, happens to that eternal principle, the absolute. And for this, we can go back to the example that Muji, the realized master, had given all of us to learn by. And it was the 3 birds in the tree. So on the first branch, we have the bird who is the doer, and that represents the personhood. When we believe that we are the body-mind, and that's all we understand is that we are the body-mind, That would be representative of the bird on the first branch. Well, then we have a bird on the second branch that is actually witnessing the bird on the first branch. So they're actually witnessing the doings, the comings and goings. But this bird on the second branch has an interest in what the outcome of the situation is. Well, that is where the one who believes she's up there with Jesus has told you all to be, is the witness of the personhood, you see, because you all still have an interest in the outcome of things. Sure, you can witness your thoughts. So what are you going to do about it? Well, what happens from that point? Where are you supposed to go? She's not able to tell you that because she doesn't understand it. Okay? Because she's a Bible thumper. So then we have, after the bird on the second branch, we have the bird on the third branch, which is the pure witness, which is the self, which is witnessing everything, which is witnessing the bird on the second branch and the bird on the first branch, and has no interest in the outcome. No interest whatsoever, because they understand that all of this busy stuff that we're all doing out here is an illusion. It is in the personhood, and it's watching everything. And this is why I said last night that every time I said, I just had a veil lift or something like that, that the witness was actually witnessing me say that, because I was still in delusion saying that, because it was an aspect of the personhood here that hadn't seen that yet. The witness was actually witnessing me say that. We are only the self. It is the personhood that is the illusion. So there are two witnessing stages. Beingness witnesses all this manifestation, which would be the bird on the third branch. It witnesses all the manifestation, but it has no interest in anything that's happening. And then you have witnessing of the beingness. There is a witness of the self. And who is that? Well, that is the source. It is the absolute. It witnesses everything. April 14th, Maharaj. So long as you are interested in this manifest world, you have no time to get to the root. So as long as you're playing with your tarot cards, you're believing that you're talking to teachers and masters, and you're having your community and you're having your tribe, you're still deeply ingrained in the personhood. Okay? You have no time to get to the root of anything. The root is this consciousness which appeared when you were a child. And what is the significance of that? Because the consciousness that we have now is the same exact consciousness that we had as a child, which is the same exact consciousness that entered our mother's womb. There's no difference in the consciousness. So what is the difference? The only difference is that as a child, we were pure. We had not bought into all the concepts yet. That is the difference. The personhood had not taken firm hold yet. We did not fully believe that we were this body and mind. We didn't understand these things. We were more pure. That is the only difference. This is why, in order to be fully liberated, you must transcend all concepts. Get back to where you were as a child. In the Bible, it says you must present yourself as a child to the Lord. So what is that? You're free of all concepts. You're free of all of these, the psychological mind, the negativity, the body-mind stuff, your desires, your greed, the 7 deadly sins. You're free of all of it. You have transcended all of it. That's what it means. But as far as the consciousness goes, we have the same consciousness today that we had when we entered the form. It's the same. The illusion is the personhood. The root of whatever activities you are now doing in that moment when you were a child, the most important quality, the chemical, the consciousness, took the photograph. Here we go. We're getting to the nitty-gritty here. From that moment, you started gathering knowledge, and on that, your present activities are happening. You started believing that you were this form, being taught by your parents who believed they were the form. And we started building and reinforcing that illusion as we grew. People are so interested in my words that no one really tries to find out what that child consciousness is. Only when you get established in the consciousness can you know that child consciousness. That is the only way. Questioner, child consciousness implies a retrogression as compared to the man consciousness. When in that state, there is no consideration of child or man consciousness. There is just being. There is no further given direction. Maharaj, there is no difference in the child consciousness and the man consciousness. Questioner, if the space that fills the small pot is the same as the space that fills the big pot, how to recognize the small pot? Maharaj, the seed of the universe is dimensionless, but because of the body, the consciousness appears and identifies with the body, but actually everything is manifest, all-pervasive consciousness. That I love is manifest. For the whole universe, there is no question of profit or loss. Only when the identification with the body is present does the question arise. When you take food, who is eating? The I amness. The food also contains the I amness. You see, think about this. You see yourself as a form. You're separate from every other individual, and you're also separate from the actual food that you're eating that keeps this form going. This is why this is called the food body. But do we ever stop to think that this is actually the source that is entering the source? Do we ever stop to think about this? Because there is nothing that we are separate from. This is all the source. Everything is the source. So when you take food, who is eating? The I amness. The food also contains the I amness. So when you consume it, you retain your I amness. Though the I amness is in the food, nobody identifies with the food. They say, this is my lunch. I am not this. But when it is consumed by them and becomes a part of the body, they say, I am the body. That mistake they made. So we will never say, I am this food, but we will say, I am this body. Because this is what we've been programmed to do in the delusion, in Maya. Questioner, I desire to be in the state of a Jnani. Maharaj, you have to know that knowledge, I am. Jnani and knowledge are one. Questioner, just by being, you have this knowledge. Remember I said, there's not a thing that we're being shown or learning that we don't already know. It's all factual. It's all factual. This is why there's not one person on this planet who should be worshipped as even a realized master. That is another concept thrown about in Maya. That the sleepers believe that these people who are awake there's something special, when in fact they're no different than everybody else. It's only in Maya that there's some kind of hierarchy going on here. That's all a part of the sleep. So for that one to say she's up there with Jesus Christ, please, she's dead in the sleep. She's dead in the sleep. Just by being you, just by being, questioner, just by being, you have this knowledge. Maharaj, you are already that. Let me say that again. You are already that. but you have to try to understand yourself. Questioner, you understand that by the very essence of your being, so there is no knowledge involved. Maharaj, at the moment you are identifying with the body, so you do not know that secret. You will come to know gradually when you really become that. Questioner, if there is only the sense of being in the I am, where do concepts come in? Maharaj, because of the vital breath, the mind flow is there. Mind means words. Mind means words. Words are concepts. So thoughts are there. They are concepts. Look at your root, the child consciousness, and finish it off. And let's reiterate this. The child consciousness is the very same consciousness that we have right now. The difference is, as a child, we have not learned or bought into all of these concepts. And the personhood is not firmly established yet. It is the personhood that is the illusion. Questioner, the difficulty lies in the fact that all consciousness is identical. So how to get to the root? Maharaj, the consciousness is a tree, but there was a seed. Go to the seed. The consciousness you have now is the same as the child consciousness. Hold on to that. That is enough. So long as the consciousness is there, everything is so important to you. But if that vanishes, then what is the worth of this whole world to you? Who is the knower of the seed? Give attention to how this I amness has appeared. Then you will know, accept this identification only, that you are this manifest pure beingness, the very soul of the universe, of this life that you observe. And presently you are just wearing this bodily attire. Presently you are just wearing this bodily attire. So what is that? What does that say to you? My God, it just smacked me in the head. What does that say? That's my picture. The body's on the clothesline and the source jumping in. Presently you are just wearing this bodily attire. Okay? That was funny. Make a note of it. You have taken down so many things in life just for fun. Why don't you take this down also and see what happens? See what happens when you look at the moon and know that the moon is there, provided you are there. Because you are, the moon is. Because you are in this form, you have the ability to see the world. Once you leave this form, we go back into the pure awareness, into the nothingness. This grand concept, this joy you directly experience and enjoy. Questioner, there must be some power which is responsible for this creation. Maharaj, the power is the self which each one has in his beingness. That power is time-bound. From the time that beingness comes, it creates automatically until that beingness disappears. Earlier, there was nothing. After, there is nothing. Let me repeat that again. This leads right back to the past lives and reincarnation. Earlier, there was nothing. Before the consciousness entered the form, earlier there was nothing, and after there is nothing. So these mediums are not contacting our family members who have died. That's what I've been telling you. It is only during the duration of the beingness that the world and creation is. We only have here and now. Once we leave this form, we go back into the nothingness, and that's it. We go back into the pure awareness, and we are in the nothingness. All of this is gone. Any vision or memory that one who thinks she's up there with Jesus had, had, was a hallucination. It is only during the duration of the beingness that the world and creation is. This power is the faith in the primordial concept I am. And that is the concept which weaves the web of creation. The entire manifestation is an appearance in this concept. Even creation is a concept. Are you getting it now? Even creation is a concept. Maharaj, when consciousness mixes with itself, that is samadhi. When one doesn't know anything and doesn't even know that he doesn't know anything, that is samadhi. Questioner, will the body become rigid? Maharaj, the body becomes still. Later on, there is no realization of the body. When everything is accounted for, that is sahaja samadhi. Questioner, the sensation is of glowing effervescence within and without. It provokes a little heat. Maharaj, that is natural. When the 5 elements mix with each other, all kinds of things may take place. The 5 elements express themselves in different fashions through the body at that stage. This is not common to all, not necessarily uniform. Each body will act and react in a different way. Therefore, different saints have different kinds of teachings. The common capital for all is the waking state, sleep state, and the consciousness I am. Questioner, I did as Maharaj said. I examined the consciousness of a child. Also, I pondered about the seed and the tree, and I have resolved that equation. Maharaj, what remains after those questions have been resolved? Can you do anything about it? Questioner, no. The seed disappears into a seedling, the seedling into a tree, and eventually the tree disappears. The seed of the child disappears into a teenager, etc. Maharaj, it does not disappear. It is transformed. Now, what remains is Parabrahman. Questioner, there was the sensation of the son returning to the father. Maharaj, did that sensation happen inside or outside the source? The parents are only names given to the source, which one always knows. You see? What I was saying the other day, there really is no family. Everyone is the source, experiencing life through these forms. So, what he just said, the parents are only names given to the source, which one always knows. Names are concepts. So we use these concepts in this life as we live in the personhood. We form attachment to these beings that we call mother and father, sister and brother. It's all an illusion in the personhood. They're names given to the forms. When something is understood, one does not really grasp it until a name is given. And then one says that one has understood. The name is not the thing. Father, mother, and child are 3 in name, but all 3 represent the same thing. What is one only. It is. And the 3 are only names and numbers given to what is basically one thing. The union of Prakriti and Purusha is myself. Prakriti and Purusha are only names. They are not forms. This subject is meant only for those who are seriously interested. The jackfruit is a very big fruit with a thick skin and pointed stickers on the outside. Inside the fruit and within the seed, one uses the fruit and the seed, which is capable of producing more fruit there. The human body is the same. Here we go. Point here. The human body is the same. What is outside is merely a shell. What one uses is the beingness inside. The seed can be used to reproduce, and the sweetness, the taste of I am, values itself and wants to continue at any cost. Prior to taking this form, you were formless. Spontaneously, the form came. And when the form came, there was a natural longing to return to the formless state. Hear those words again. 2 forms that are nothing more than the 5 elements, which is Mother Earth standing up, came together and created Their seeds came together and created a new form of the 5 elements spontaneously through the action of sexual intercourse, where the seeds met and joined together. They created spontaneously a new form of the 5 elements, and spontaneously the source entered that form as consciousness. Everything is spontaneous. When you want to return to the formless, desireless state, then only you come here to seek what you are. The consciousness has to know the consciousness. When it realizes itself, then only do you return to normal. Has any one of those persons coming here become a Jnani? Maharaj, a number of those who have come here have acquired the knowledge, but only superficially. No one has really studied what the knowledge is. No one has really grasped the full meaning. What are they doing now? They are entangled in wanting, desiring, and this has made them forget the knowledge, like the one who's up there with Jesus. Very few will get this knowledge correctly and absorb it deeply into their hearts. Once you have understood the origin of this movement, this activity, and the reason, the nature of this desire, then only can you return to what you are. Unless you are firm about it, you will not understand, like the one who is up there with Jesus. So I will say here, once again, I will leave this here. I will say here once again that past lives and reincarnation are concepts that were brought about through religion, through society. Because everything in this universe is spontaneous. The creation of another form is spontaneous. The source entering that form is spontaneous. And we're only able, as we enter the form and become aware of that we exist, that's only when this world exists. That's only when we can experience these things. Because once we leave this form, we go back into pure awareness. We go back into the nothingness. All of this disappears. The only thing we will ever have is right now. Anytime you are looking to the past, you are in the personhood. Anytime you are looking to the future, you are in personhood. And what cracks me up about the one that thinks she's up there with Jesus is she will tell people about having their pity parties, being depressed about what could have been, thinking about the past, being anxious about what is going to happen, being looking to the future, and all you have is now. Well, she says this all the time, but she doesn't live it because she's a Bible thumper. This is why she is still taking anxiety medication. So if it's okay for it being in the personhood that you should not look to the past and get depressed and have your pity party, and you should not look to the future and be anxious that all we have is right now, then why is that any different at the consciousness level? Because as above, so below. If you look to the past to think that you may have had a past life, you are in the personhood and you are delusional. And if you've had any visions of any past life, it is a hallucination of the mind. And anyone looking to the future is also coming to you from the personhood. For those who are on a true path looking to be self-realized, the only thing we have is right now, right this minute. Enjoy who you are. You don't have to search. You don't have to do. You don't have to think. You don't have to do anything because you are already that. The only thing you have to do is find out who the personhood is. That is the delusion. That is Maya. And all of these things that you hear that one who believes she's up there with Jesus talk about are all concepts in the personhood. So in fact, as she was trying to bait me again, she has done nothing but out herself again. And the source says, Pharaoh, let my people go. Oh no? Okay. Let's teach you a lesson. Lesson taught today. Every single thing that the one who believes she's up there with Jesus talks about is in the personhood. It is all concepts. She is preventing you from knowing the self. And The more you read, the more you study, the more you will understand. This video is probably one of the most important videos I will ever make. Because if you can understand and absorb what I said in this video fully, you will never be taken in by another fake guru. You will never be taken in by a charlatan. You will never be taken in by another gypsy tarot card reader or crystal ball reader. Never. Because it is all in the personhood. And understand that the self is witnessing all of this, and the self has no care or concern on what the outcome is going to be. So God is not happy with anything you're doing. God is not unhappy with anything you're doing. What is karma? Karma is another concept. Because God is not happy or unhappy with anything you're doing. You are God. Is God going to punish himself? You've got to understand the concepts and understand that everything that comes out of that woman's mouth is a concept, and she is comatose in the personhood. Your goal is not to belong to any online community or ashram. Your goal is not to belong to any tribe. Your goal is to break all attachments. Your goal is to stand on your own, in your own light, and know who you are. Not the blind leading the blind. You are to go inside yourself and only find your answers here, not from another person who has not been awoken yet. That is the truth. That is the absolute truth. So I'm going to leave this here. And once again, what can I say? Go thank the one who says she's up there with Jesus Christ. Thank her, because another beautiful lesson has been delivered because of her ignorance. That's all I can say about it. So let's go here. We'll close. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamashaya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vavishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. That is full. This is also full. From fullness comes that fullness. Taking fullness from fullness, fullness indeed remains. Oh, peace, peace, peace. Have a blessed day, everybody.